James Vernon Taylor, born March 12, 1948, is an American singer-songwriter and guitarist. A five-time Grammy Award winner, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. 2. He is one of the best-selling music artists of all time, having sold more than 100 million records worldwide. 3. Taylor achieved his breakthrough in 1970 with the No. 3 single Fire and Rain and had his first No. 1 hit in 1971 with his recording of You've Got a Friend, written by Carole King in the same year. His 1976 Greatest Hits album was certified diamond and has sold 12 million US copies. Following his 1977 album, JT, he has retained a large audience over the decades. Every album that he released from 1977 to 2007 sold over 1 million copies. He enjoyed a resurgence in chart performance during the late 1990s and 2000s, when he recorded some of his most awarded work, including Hourglass, October Road, and covers. He achieved his first #1 album in the US in 2015 with his recording Before This World. 4. He is known for his covers, such as How Sweet It Is, To Be Loved by You, and Handyman, as well as originals such as Sweet Baby James. 4. James Vernon Taylor was born at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston on March 12, 1948, where his father, Isaac M. Taylor, worked as a resident physician. 5-6, his father came from a wealthy Scottish family from the South. 5, however, part of his ancestral roots are deep in Massachusetts Bay Colony and include Edmund Rice, one of the founders of Sudbury, Massachusetts. 7, his mother, the former Gertrude Woodard, 1921-2015, studied singing with Marie Sundelius at the New England Conservatory of Music and was an aspiring opera singer before the couple's marriage in 1946. 5-8, James was the second of 5 children, the others being Alex, 1947-1993, Kate, born 1949, Livingston, born 1950, and Hugh, born 1952. 9. In 1951, his family moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. 10. When Isaac took a job as an assistant professor of medicine at the University of North Carolina School of Medicine. 11. They built a house in the Morgan Creek area off the present Morgan Creek Road, which was sparsely populated. 12. James would later say, Chapel Hill, the Piedmont, the outlying hills, were tranquil, rural, beautiful, but quiet. Thinking of the red soil, the seasons, the way things smelled down there, I feel as though my experience of coming of age there was more a matter of landscape and climate than people. 12. James attended a public primary school in Chapel Hill. 5. Isaac's career prospered, but he was frequently away from home, on military service at Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland, or as part of Operation Deep Freeze in Antarctica in 1955 and 1956. 13. Isaac Taylor later rose to become Dean of the UNC School of Medicine from 1964 to 1971. 14. Beginning in 1953, the Taylors spent summers on Martha's Vineyard. 15. James took cello lessons as a child in North Carolina, before learning the guitar in 1960. 16. His guitar style evolved, influenced by hymns, carols, and the music of Woody Guthrie, and his technique derived from his bass clef-oriented cello training and from experimenting on his sister Kate's keyboards. My style was a finger-picking style that was meant to be like a piano, as if my thumb were my left hand, and my first, second, and third fingers were my right hand. 17. Spending summer holidays with his family on Martha's Vineyard, he met Danny Korchmar, an aspiring teenage guitarist from Larchmont, New York. 18. The two began listening to and playing blues and folk music together, and Korchmar felt that Taylor's singing had a natural sense of phrasing, every syllable beautifully in time. I knew James had that thing. 19. Taylor wrote his first song on guitar at 14, and he continued to learn the instrument effortlessly. 17. By the summer of 1963, he and Korchmar were playing coffeehouses around the vineyard, billed as Jamie and Coach. 20. James went to Milton Academy, a preparatory boarding school in Massachusetts in 1961, faltering during his junior year, feeling uneasy in the high-pressure college prep environment despite good scholastic performance. 21. The Milton headmaster would later say, James was more sensitive and less goal-oriented than most students of his day. 22. He returned home to North Carolina to finish out the semester at Chapel Hill High School. 21. There, he joined a band formed by his brother Alex called the Corsairs, later the Fabulous Corsairs, playing electric guitar. In 1964, they cut a single in Raleigh that featured James's song Cha Cha Blues on the B-side. 21. Having lost touch with his former school friends in North Carolina, Taylor returned to Milton for his senior year, 21, where he started applying to colleges to complete his education. 23. But he felt part of a life that, he was, unable to lead, and he became depressed. He slept 20 hours each day, and his grades collapsed. 21-24, in late 1965 he committed himself to McLean, a psychiatric hospital in Belmont, Massachusetts, 21, where he was treated with chlorpromazine, and where the organized days began to give him a sense of time and structure. 22-24, as the Vietnam War escalated, Taylor received a psychological rejection from Selective Service System when he appeared before them with 2 white-suited McLean assistants and was uncommunicative. 25. Taylor earned a high school diploma in 1966 from the hospital's associated Arlington School. 25. He would later view his 9-month stay at McLean as a lifesaver, like a pardon or like a reprieve. 24, and both his brother Livingston and sister Kate would later be patients and students there as well. 22. As for his mental health struggles, Taylor would think of them as innate and say, "It's an inseparable part of my personality that I have these feelings." 23. At Kortchmar's urging, Taylor checked himself out of McLean and moved to New York City to form a band. 25. They recruited Joel O'Brien, formerly of Kortchmar's old band King Bees, to play drums, and Taylor's childhood friend Zachary Wiesner, son of noted academic Jerome Wiesner, to play bass, and after Taylor rejected the notion of naming the group after him, they called themselves the Flying Machine. 22-26, they played songs that Taylor had written at and about McLean, such as Knocking Round the Zoo, Don't Talk Now, and The Blues Is Just a Bad Dream. 24-26, in some other songs, Taylor romanticized his life, but he was plagued by self-doubt. 27. By summer 1966, they were performing regularly at the High Visibility Night Owl Cafe in Greenwich Village, alongside acts such as the Turtles and Lotar and the Hand People. 28. Taylor associated with a motley group of people and began using heroin, to Kortchmar's dismay, and wrote the Paint It Black-influenced Rainy Day Man to depict his drug experience. 22-28, in a late 1966 hasty recording session, the group cut a single, Taylor's Night Owl, backed with his Brighten Your Night with My Day. 29, released on JG Records, a subsidiary of Jubilee Records, it received some radio airplay in the Northeast. 29, but only charted at No. 102 nationally. 30, other songs had been recorded during the same session, but Jubilee declined to go forward with an album. 29, after a series of poorly chosen appearances outside New York, culminating with a 3-week stay at a failing night spot in Freeport, Bahamas for which they were never paid, the Flying Machine broke up. 29, a UK band with the same name emerged in 1969 with the hit song Smile a Little Smile for Me. The New York band's recordings were later released in 1971 as James Taylor and the original Flying Machine. Taylor would later say of this New York period, "I learned a lot about music and too much about drugs." 27, indeed, his drug use had developed into full-blown heroin addiction during the final Flying Machine period. "I just fell into it, since it was as easy to get high in the village as get a drink." 29, he hung out in Washington Square Park, playing guitar to ward off depression and then passing out, letting runaways and criminals stay at his apartment. 31, finally out of money and abandoned by his manager, he made a desperate call one night to his father. Isaac Taylor flew to New York and staged a rescue, renting a car and driving all night back to North Carolina with James and his possessions. 31, Taylor spent 6 months getting treatment and making a tentative recovery. He also required a throat operation to fix vocal cords damaged from singing too harshly. 32. Taylor decided to try being a solo act with a change of scenery. In late 1967, funded by a small family inheritance, he moved to London, living in various areas, Notting Hill, Belgravia, and Chelsea. 33. After recording some demos in Soho, his friend Kortchmar gave him his next big break. Kortchmar used his association with the King Bees, who once opened for Peter and Gordon, to connect Taylor to Peter Asher. Asher was A&R head for the Beatles' newly formed label Apple Records. 34. Taylor gave a demo tape of songs, including Something in the Way She Moves, to Asher, 35, who then played the demo for Beatles Paul McCartney and George Harrison. McCartney remembers his first impression: "I just heard his voice and his guitar and I thought he was great, and he came and played live, so it was just like, wow, he's great." 34, Taylor became the first non-British act signed to Apple. 34, and he credits Asher for opening the door to his singing career. 35, Taylor said of Asher, who later became his manager, "I knew from the first time that we met that he was the right person to steer my career. He had this determination in his eye that I had never seen in anybody before." 36, 70. Living chaotically in various places with various women, Taylor wrote additional material, including Carolina in My Mind, and rehearsed with a new backing band. 37, Taylor recorded what would become his first album from July to October 1968, at Trident Studios, at the same time the Beatles were recording the White Album. 37-38, McCartney and an uncredited George Harrison guested on Carolina in My Mind, whose lyric "Holy host of others standing around me" referred to the Beatles, and the title phrase of Taylor's "Something in the Way She Moves" provided the lyrical starting point for Harrison's classic Something. 39-40, McCartney and Asher brought in arranger Richard Anthony Hewson to add both orchestrations to several of the songs and unusual link passages between them. They would receive a mixed reception, at best. 39-41.